Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. Now, Viburnum is a group of plants that a lot of people don't really recognize. It's very, very wide, and many of the plants do not look like one and the other. As a result, the people just go, oh yeah, that's such and such or whatever, and give it a name or whatever. But many people do grow them and appreciate them. Now, some of them have been grown in the past as standards, some of them just as shrubs, and some of them are actually large enough to be classified as a small tree. Viburnums are an interesting group in the fact that many of them are actually fragrant. And the first one that I want to talk about is Viburnum cross Burkwoodii. Now, this one's been around a very long time, which is a good indication of why you want this one. First of all, it's got a spicy fragrance, blooms that are pink in the bud that open white. They have a dark green, semi-evergreen foliage, so that means that some of that foliage is going to come right through the winter. It does have interest, therefore, in many different seasons. It's only hardy to about zone 5B6, and the plant itself is going to be 5 to 8 feet in all directions. It does bloom in the spring. It has deer resistance, and it goes full sun, but it'll go semi-shade as well. And it's one of those ones that you don't see as much, but should see more of. And then there's mohawk. Now, I've seen mohawk growing in gardens and outside of its range, simply because of the way it was situated in order to have good air movement, so there was no early or late frost. And, of course, lots of sun. So it was a warm location. Mohawk is a back cross with Carlesi, Viburnum Carlesi, and Burkwoodii. So it means that it's got the reddish-pink buds and very intense, fragrant white flowers. It's disease-resistant, glossy foliage, turns a bright orangey red in the fall. It is, again, hardy to about 5B6 and gets 5 to 8 feet tall. Blooms in the spring. White flowers, basically. We're calling it that because the buds are even darker. But mohawk is very, very nice, and I have seen it grow outside of that range. And, of course, there is Viburnum Carlesi. Now, Viburnum Carlesi is probably one of the ones that you probably are very familiar with. This one is the one they often will use as a standard. In other words, grafted on top of a viburnum stem. And you'll find it in many gardens because it's fairly small, takes time, and, of course, is very, very fragrant. Consistent bloomer is another thing that you should know about this one. Some deer resistance as well. It's got a sweet, spicy fragrance to it. It's in early spring, and it's enough that you get even close to this plant that you'll smell the fragrance. It has a slight pink tinge to the flower buds, which open up pure white, but you'll still see some with a little bit of pink in it, even as it's maturing. So the fall color on it is a burgundy, which makes it very interesting as well in the fall. So it is excellent. So you got fragrance, you've got color, you've got lots of consistent bloom, and you've got that nice fall color. Hardy to zone 5, 6 to 8 foot, and it blooms in the spring, some deer resistance as well. Now then there's a newer variety. It is Spice Baby. It's compact Korean spice viburnum, and it's fragrant. It has a nice compact habit, and I think you'll find that you'll like this one simply because it's very fragrant. And it's hardier. It's hardy to zone 4, and it gets 3.5 to 5 feet in size all over. So that's excellent as well. And then Spice Girl is again another one in the Korean spice viburnum group. Again, strong growth, fragrance, colorful flowers. The spring flowers start out a deep reddish pink and mature to the blush pinkish white. It is very fragrant. Again, hardy to zone 4, and it is 6 to 7 feet tall and wide with deer resistance as well. Now, there is another one. Now, this one is called Wither Rod. Now, Wither Rod is a viburnum, and it is really quite hardy. It is called Little Diddy. An unusual name. It's a dwarf viburnum. It has puffball, creamy white flowers in late spring. The fruit eventually turns black and remains on the plant to provide some winter interest as well. It is food for songbirds, so that's good as well. It grows well in the landscape and in mass plantings and foundations, so it's not too bad. It's only 1 to 2 feet in diameter and height, and hardy to zone 3. Yeah, zone 3. And then there's the arrowwood viburnums. Now, this one is another group of viburnums, and there's a lot of them and a lot of different groups. So I think this is one of the ones that is ignored by many people. All That Glitters, arrowwood viburnum. It's got glossy foliage that catches the light immediately. So it's very, very bright, very pretty. It glitters almost. And it makes it appealing in the landscape because of this brightness. It's smaller than some of the big dentatums, viburnums, and it's nice size for the home landscape. Has white flower clusters in spring with blue fruit. Yeah, I said blue fruit. When planted near its companion, All That Glows, it needs, in other words, another cross. So you're going to have to plant 2 different ones. All That Glows is, again, a high gloss, compact viburnum. White flower clusters, showy blue berries, so they both get berries. And it's hard to get blue into the landscape, but this one is. And its fruit and size is quite large, and there's lots of it. So a good plant for good color. But you need to plant 1 of each for great and consistent fruit anyways. Hardy to zone 4 for both of them. Both of them are about 4 to 5 feet, though All That Glows may get a little bigger. It blooms in early summer, and it gets the fruit in the fall. So, nice. Okay? If you want something that shines in your garden, that's it. And then there's Blue Muffin. Now, Blue Muffin is one of the bigger ones. It is a dentatum, but it is a more compact one, simply because that's the way it's been bred, because a lot of the dentatums are really big. The first ones I ever saw were very old. They were in a Princeton nursery in New Jersey. And it was, I would say, 8 to 10 feet tall and maybe 15 feet across. And it was in full fruit and it happened to be a pink. So it was very impressive. But again, that variety wasn't hardy here, even then. This one is hardy to zone 3. It has the glossy green foliage, compact, so it's only 5 to 7 feet. It makes a good hedge, which is unusual for a plant, and still gives you lots of fruit when you put the two species together within close proximity. The best pollinator for this particular one, blue muffin, is Chicago lustri, Viburnum. Hardy to zone 3, 5 to 7 feet, late spring bloom, and fall fruit. Chicago lustri is going to be, now this is the downside to it, 10 to 12 feet. Hardy to zone 4, late spring flowering, glossy green foliage. It's rapid growing, it's upright, rounded in its shape, and of course used to give the pollinator to the little blue muffin. It is a nice one in the fact that it does have a bit of fall color to it as well. Now there's linden viburnums, and linden viburnums are a nice little group, and there's 2 in this one that are significant. Cardinal Candy, great name. Now this is a dilatatum viburnum. It has improved hardiness and persistent shiny scarlet red fruit. That makes it interesting right there. The fruit appears strong even without another pollinator in the area. That's important, right? It is going to be hardy to zone 5, has been shown to actually produce plants down into as much as minus 30 degrees. So that would be Fahrenheit. So it can be quite tough, and maybe even tougher than it is recommended. So we'll see what happens. Lots of white flowers. It's nicely branched, rounded plant, and it's going to bloom in the spring. You can control the height with pruning on this one, so that's a good thing. Hardy to zone 5, 6 to 8 foot, and late spring bloom and fall fruit. Tandoori orange. Now, Tandoori orange is a 6 to 8 foot viburnum. It is hardy to zone 5, gets the fall fruit. It is an orange fruited dilatatum. It's actually a cross between the red fruited Cardinal Candy and the yellow fruited Michael Dodge. And it's a good plant to grow. It's fairly easy. It's attractive. A good looking plant even when it's small. Orange, red fall color as well. So it's a really good pollinator for it as well. And you use the Cardinal Candy as a pollinator to make sure that you get good fruit set onto Tandoori orange. Now we talked a little bit about northern witherwood viburnum. Here's the southern one. Now the southern witherwood viburnum is going to be hardy to zone 5. So I don't want you to get, just because it's called southern, I don't want you to think that, it's got to be growing in zone 10 or something. 5 to 6 foot, spring bloom, nice fall color. And it's got incredibly dark maroon red foliage in the fall. which is why it's got its name, Brandywine. What you'll find is that it's a good viburnum, gives you nice fall color, fairly hardy, lots of fruit. So it is a good companion to witherwood. It's not bad. It's a good one to put into your garden. Then there are others in this group, but what I'll do is I will save them for another time, because this is a very large group that I feel is ignored by many, many gardeners and garden centers, to be honest with you. I'm Bruce Zimmerman. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.